Gabbi Zuñiga.
I'm Josh Bunzel.
And we're doing our presentation on English language learners in mathematics. So the first couple of slides are just kind of general information that is relevant to Nevada as a whole in relation to English language students. So the darkest blue represents the highest density of English language learner students in K through 12. As you can see, Nevada is the darkest blue in relevance to all the other states, right? So although ELL learning is very important, we can see how important it is in Nevada because of how high our density and population of ELLs are. Right, here's another kind of just pie chart further breaking down the identities of our ELLs. We think it's really important to kind of reiterate and talk about how English language learner does not just mean Spanish speaking, sorry. That's something that's kind of been like a norm. For whatever reason, people just automatically connect ELL to Spanish, but that's not always the case. As you can see, although yes, Latin American descent is 73% the largest portion of our ELL students in Nevada, we see that 21% are Asian descent, 2% are African descent, and 4% are European descent who need help with the English language. So we just think it's really important to kind of take away that prejudice or the idea that it's just Spanish speaking. To kind of build on that idea, I want to talk about culturally relevant pedagogy. Alright, this is the idea that it's important to connect the material that we're teaching the students to their past experiences and kind of their prior knowledge, just to help them not just feel connected, but also kind of internalize the information a little bit more. Again, our students are not just Spanish speaking, right? There's ELLs from all over the world. So kind of building on their own experiences will truly help them further develop their mathematical ability. The brain just seeks to find a community within where it's at. So connecting the math to who they are will really help them feel comfortable and connected to the material. Right. In congruence to that, student-teacher relationships and classroom culture are extremely important for ELLs, right? Personally speaking, and I'm sure Josh as well, some of my ELLs, even newcomers, have some sort of like English ability, even if it's not much, but they can be really scared to use it and just kind of sit in this idea of, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want people to see how much I'm struggling. So I'm just gonna like sit here and pretend I don't know anything, rather than kind of put themselves out there. So it's really important to just kind of feel or be connected to the student, like encourage the student to be themselves and try it, because no one's gonna make fun of them, right? That goes back to classroom culture, right? If your other students are willing to help and willing to like guide them through it, they're more willing to try, and therefore more likely to succeed in what they're doing, right? And then the success is gonna further like help them just keep trying.
Alright, so what we're going to do next is a reading activity. So if we were in class, we would be handing these out or telling you to access it on your devices since we're presenting remotely. Obviously you don't need to break into groups of 4, but we have an article that's posted on Google Drive, and we have a link available there. And what the article is basically 20 strategies for working with ELL students. So ideally in a classroom setting, we would have had you break into groups of 4, and each group would read 5 strategies from the article, Teach Mathematics Strategies to Reach All Students, and then kind of share out what you think some highlights were from that. So if you would like, I encourage you to access that document, which again, there's a link available in this slideshow that you can get at it. And again, read through those resources. Some of them are more applicable to, say, younger students, having visuals with understanding fractions and stuff. But some of them, can be a lot more widespread. And visuals obviously is not just for fractions. You can use that with like graphing parabolas or stuff like that. Basically differentiation for ELL students. So this is geared toward not just ELL students, but all students. So it's also for students maybe with learning disabilities that you can address with them as well. So again, take some time, look at that article. It does have good strategies in it. Obviously, we're not breaking into groups of 4.
It's a really good article.
Gabbi endorses it. Okay, another thing we want to talk about, since the first groups that presented for this project talked about technology, using things like Desmos and Khan Academy and Nearpod, we wanted to talk about, okay, how can we use those resources with ELL students? So the first thing I want to point out is that language should not be the barrier in students utilizing mathematics resources. If a student's going to struggle in math, it should be math that they struggle in, not understanding the words that we're using. Ideally, no student should struggle in math, but still, we're trying to eliminate that language barrier. So my school, for example, we use this online software called Mathia. In the first couple weeks of the school year, my ELL students, they could do very little on it because it's completely in English. So we spoke to the company, we spoke to our school administrators, because normally you can't install any plugins on our Chromebooks, and they decided to allow it through the Google Translate plugin. And it's great because it's just a plugin that sits in Google Chrome, and they can click on it, they select their language, and it will automatically translate the entire page into whatever language they selected. So a Spanish student would select Spanish, and the entire page would automatically, all the text converted into Spanish for them. So it's great because there are resources out there that don't allow or don't give the option for you to maybe have your account in a different language. So this is kind of a much more universal access tool. Again, CCSD, most schools, I think it's controlled on a school-by-school basis, but they don't allow you to install plugins. So if that's something that you're interested in, you do have to talk to your administrator, probably the tech guy or girl at your school, whoever that might be. Also, Khan Academy was talked about the other week as a good resource for giving students homework and just examples and stuff. When students make a Khan Academy account, they can go directly into their account settings and they can change the language to basically anything. I mean, there was like 45 different languages in there. Spanish is one of them, but there's Chinese, there's Russian, there's Cyrillic, there's stuff like that as well. So whatever language they need to access or is most convenient for them, they can change it to that. And I kind of note on that, I always told my ELL students that, I think it's important that they do learn English, but like my setting, I want to encourage them to do that, but also, again, going back to my first point, language shouldn't be the barrier. So at this point in the year, some of my students have gotten to the point where they're like, oh, I'm comfortable getting my test in English. Okay, that's great, but at the beginning of the year, they still needed it in Spanish. So let them get that at their own pace, but give them access in multiple forms. Another thing that Gabbi uses, she uses Google Form questions in her classroom, I think for exit tickets and E2 nows.
Yeah.
And again, those are really great because it's on the Chromebook. If you have the Google Translate plugin, boom, things are translated right away for them. So it's not a matter of making your slides in multiple languages and putting them up or printing them out or making handouts in multiple languages. If the student feels they need to change the language, they can change the language. So it puts it in their hands because, again, like I said, students may get to the point where they're like, hey, I'm comfortable seeing this in English now, so they can choose to do that.
It's really low lift for the teacher.
Yeah, low lift. And then the other thing is Quizlet vocabulary. Again, putting things on the Chromebook, if you get that Google Translate plugin available to you, putting things in the Chromebook, it puts that access in the hands of the students. Because there was a period I know for me where I was just automatically giving students, ELL students, like their tests or their handouts in Spanish, but then someone would say to me oh no, Mr. Bunzel, I'd like it in English now. Like, oh, that's awesome. Okay. So I guess the biggest takeaway from this is the Google Translate plugin, but then again with Khan Academy, they can change their language if they need to. It's probably something the teacher would want to help them with. Okay, so the last activity we're going to do is about experiencing being an ELL. So again, we're obviously not in class right now. So this document is posted on Google Drive. There's a link there for it. So ELL students are often exposed to materials in the classroom and elsewhere in school that they can't understand. And this also goes for their parents, because many times even though students may understand some English, their parents don't have any English capability, so it's up to the student to be able to understand it. So this form here is a school form. I'm not going to tell you what type of form it is, but it's written in a foreign language, and it's not a language that I think anyone in this class is going to be accustomed to except for me. So I want you to take 5 minutes, and obviously we can't really enforce this because you're not sitting in front of us, and just try to figure it out with any resources. Okay, so you can't use your phone, you can't use a Chromebook or anything like that, you can't use your laptop. You would be able to ask us for questions, but we're only going to be able to respond in the language that this document is written in. Again, simulating, say you have a student who doesn't speak any English at all, they're trying to understand a document, and you are like me and don't speak any Spanish at all, except for like gracias and senor. So I can only help them in English, to kind of show that we're only going to help you in the language of the document. After 5 minutes, go ahead, use Google Translate and stuff like that to try to figure out what the document is saying. Again, we're not in class, so if you'd like to look at that, kind of see what it feels like, that form is available there. Go ahead and check that out.
It's really cool. I suggested we do it in Spanish, just because, I speak Spanish, but he said that's too easy.
Yeah, because I think there's a fair amount of people in our class that know some working Spanish, so you could fill out the forms. But we did a different language, so check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that is all that we have.
If you have any questions, feel free to, put them in our post. But other than that, thank you.
Yeah, and I will also share all of these documents, the article and this as well, in our post as well. But they're also available through links in this. So. All right, enjoy your quarantine. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.